At first, saving $500 a month didn't feel important. Actually, it felt pointless because when you looked at rich people online, $500 seemed tiny. Social media made wealth look fast. Luxury cars at 22, millionaire businesses overnight, people your age apparently becoming rich every weekend. Meanwhile, you sat in a small apartment trying to convince yourself that saving a few $100s even mattered. Most months it felt painful. While friends spent money freely, you kept saying no. No expensive trips, no random shopping, no trying to impress strangers online. At times, it honestly made you feel behind in life, especially during weekends. Everyone else looked like they were enjoying their youth while you were calculating expenses and moving money into savings. And the hardest part? Nobody noticed your progress. Because saving money is invisible at first. Nobody claps for discipline. Nobody celebrates delayed gratification. From the outside, your life still looked normal. Same apartment, same clothes, same routine. But quietly, something inside your mind was changing. For the first time in your life, you stopped spending every dollar immediately. That changed the way you thought about the future. You started noticing how most people lived completely emotionally with money. Stress shopping, impulse buying, trying to look successful instead of becoming stable. Before, you lived exactly the same way. Every paycheck disappeared quickly, not because life was luxurious, because financial stress creates short-term thinking. When people feel trapped, they chase temporary happiness constantly. Food, shopping, entertainment, distractions, anything to escape pressure for a few hours. You understood that feeling too well. That's why saving money at first felt emotionally uncomfortable. It forced you to think long-term. And long-term thinking feels strange when you spent years just trying to survive each month. Still, every month you continued saving the same amount. $500, again and again and again. At first, the numbers barely moved. That was frustrating. You expected progress to feel dramatic. Instead, it felt slow, quiet, almost invisible. But after a while, something unexpected happened. You stopped checking your bank account with fear. For the first time in years, emergencies didn't feel life-ending anymore. A random expense no longer destroyed your entire month. That feeling changed your nervous system slowly. Life became quieter mentally. You slept better, you stressed less, and without realizing it, you became addicted to stability.
A year passed, then 2, then 3. The strange thing was that nothing looked different from the outside. You still went to work, still lived simply, still drove the same car. If someone looked at your life, they probably wouldn't think much had changed. But internally, everything was different. The savings account kept growing. Not fast enough to impress people, but fast enough to create something you never had before. Options. That word became important because when you have no savings, every decision feels forced. You stay at jobs you hate. You tolerate situations you should leave. You accept stress because you don't have another choice. But slowly, that started changing. For the first time, you had breathing room. A bad month no longer felt catastrophic. A surprise expense no longer ruined everything. And the most unexpected part, you stopped obsessing over money. Not because you had millions, because you finally had enough distance from survival mode. The constant anxiety began disappearing. You noticed it one evening while sitting at home. Months earlier, you would have checked your bank account 3 times before going to sleep. Now you didn't even think about it. That realization felt strange. For years, money had controlled your emotions. A number on a screen could determine whether your day felt good or bad. Now, that power was disappearing, and in its place came something better. Peace. Not excitement, not luxury. Peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're finally building something instead of constantly starting over. By year 5, the money itself wasn't the biggest change. You were. Saving $500 every month had quietly rewired the way you lived. You stopped chasing things you didn't need, stopped comparing yourself to people online, stopped feeling behind all the time. Because for the first time, you had proof that your future was improving. Not overnight, but every single month. The account balance kept growing. Then something interesting happened. The savings started making money on their own. Interest, investments, compound growth. Small at first, almost invisible, but eventually you noticed that some months your money grew more than you added. That realization felt powerful. For years you had worked for money. Now money was starting to work for you. Not enough to quit your job, not enough to change your lifestyle, but enough to change your perspective. You finally understood why wealthy people were patient. Because once the process starts working, time becomes your greatest asset. And for the first time, the future felt exciting instead of uncertain.
By year 10, the number was larger than you ever imagined. Not because you became rich overnight, because 10 years had passed whether you saved or not. And now you could finally see the result of every small decision, every skipped purchase, every extra $500, every moment of patience. Together, they had created something powerful. Freedom. Not private jets, not mansions. Freedom. The freedom to leave a job you hated. The freedom to handle emergencies without panic. The freedom to make decisions based on what you wanted, not what your bank account allowed. And the strangest part? The money wasn't what made you happiest. It was who you became along the way. More patient, more disciplined, more confident. Because every month you kept a promise to yourself, a promise that your future mattered. One evening, you opened your account and looked at the number for a few seconds. Then you closed it. No excitement, no disbelief, just quiet satisfaction. Because the goal was never the number. The goal was peace. 10 years earlier, you were surviving month to month. Now, you were looking forward to the future. And all of it started with one simple decision. Save $500. Then do it again next month.